Sleep Token are playing a very historic, seemingly, gig in London, and I understand you're going to be there. What are your plans? That would break the internet.
that would break the internet. There's a bunch of people in my comments, at least, that say like, "Oh, I would like this if the lyrics weren't so corny." I'm like, that's another thing that needs to change in this metal scene, is we really embrace negative lyrics, but when someone's actually doing well, for some reason that's cringy. We need to learn to embrace how to become healthier, better people.
I don't know if I really want to talk about this particular band and topic, but between us girls, Architects.
Yep, totally agree.
I am delighted to have the chance today to speak to one of the OGs of the music reaction sphere, more specifically in the metal music reaction world. Now, it's easy to see from the person's subscriber and follower accounts that they're a much loved member of the metal community. But more than that, the reason that I'm so interested in this chat today is because not only are their live reactions that they record to the music entertaining, but more than that, I've found that their reviews and their commentary on the scene in general is very nuanced and considered and thoughtful. And that's something that I think is really important and valuable. And I'd love to find out a little bit more about the backstory and the man himself behind the YouTuber that is Metalbirb. So welcome, Metalbirb. Thank you for joining me today. How are you feeling? I understand you've just finished a live stream right before this. Is that right?
I'm good. Yeah, I did finish a live stream, and like, what an introduction. I feel so honored. Thank you, man. I have been doing the reactions for a long time. It's weird to be called an OG, but I guess I can be. Like when I hear OG, I think of Truant. Do you remember Truant?
No, I've heard of them, but that was before my time of dipping into looking at reactions.
Yeah, he's the true OG. He was from the UK as well, and he was checking out bands like Sleep Token and stuff way before, long time ago, like back in like 2018.
What was your first response to seeing a music reaction channel? Because I'm sure mine was, really, is this a thing? But then I noticed I'm watching a lot of this because it is compelling, and it taps into that thing of when you discover a new band, you can't wait to tell your friend about it. You're like, oh, does this hit you the same way it hit me? And we're essentially doing that to scale for everyone else to enjoy if the music they like to see, if you like the same thing as well. What was your take on it when you first saw this as a thing?
No, absolutely. It is a little bit of a weird thing because when I first saw reactions on YouTube, I was always like a very critical person that this is lazy content. They're stealing other people's content and just milking it for views. Like literally, that's exactly, I hated reaction videos. And then, I was just searching up music because I'm a music nerd, obviously, and so, I would search up songs on YouTube, and this guy, like I was just mentioning, Truon, he kept doing the reaction videos. And I'm like, okay, I'll watch it because someone's actually showcasing songs that are much more underground, that are harder to find and harder to find discussions online, like threads. And this guy's making a whole video about it. So you can talk about it in the comments, or you can just watch him listen to it. So I started watching his videos, and, at the beginning, I'm like, okay, this is lazy content, whatever. But then I started to get his personality, and then I started to understand a little bit more. I'm like, oh, it's like watching music with a friend, and you start to enjoy their company, and then you don't feel so alone with this niche music taste that we have, right? Because my taste in music is very niche, and just like yours, and just like this community that's online. But then, so Truant, what he ended up just kind of quitting. He was very... He didn't really tell his audience what he was doing. He just kind of stopped making videos, and everyone's like, is he okay? What happened? He just fell off the earth. And he made a comment recently about it, why he left. But basically, I saw that as a way of, I want to start making reaction videos, because I did YouTube back in the day. Like when I was in high school, I used to do a lot of guitar covers. And so YouTube is not like... it's totally strange for me. I had a little bit of a following actually back in the day. So I just thought, why don't I start a whole new YouTube channel with a whole new name and just focus around discussing music and sharing music? Because the one thing that I wanted to separate myself from Truant and not just be like a Truant copycat was share my honest opinions, because Truant liked every song, and I wanted to be someone that'd be like, no, this song wasn't this good, but this is why. And the reason why is because I wanted to help improve the scene from my eyes, or from my ears, So that's basically how I viewed reaction channels and how I got into the whole game.
Nice. Now, of you mentioned it before, but one of the things I want to start off by talking about is a band that we have a mutual appreciation for. And this is quite a timely moment because a week from tomorrow, at the time of this recording, Sleep Token are playing a very historic, seemingly, gig at Wembley Arena. It's their first time headlining an arena gig, and it's in London. And I understand you're going to be there. How has that come to be? What are your plans for the UK when you head over?
Oh my god, I know it's a big thing, man. But yeah, Sleep Token. I've joked about it in my channel that drink every time I say Sleep Token because you'll be wasted. I love the band clearly. But I'm not. I try my best to not be biased and still be critical because I did find that their last album was okay in my opinion, but I did feel like Take Me Back to Eden is just phenomenal. But so basically, I have a good relationship with Spine Farm Records now. They really love the what I've been doing for their content. So I have been working with them, but at the same time, I'm a big fan of the band Health. And so Health actually knows this. So they reached out to me to make videos, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is really cool. And so I started making videos for them, and let and behold, guess who gets announced to be an opener for Sleep Token is Health. And so I didn't even know that. Because I kept just doing my stuff, and since I still enjoy the band, I decided to have Johnny, who's the bassist and synth and a lot of production in Health's music. I had him on the podcast, and that's when he informed me that he's actually opening for Sleep Token at the Wembley Arena show. I'm like, no way,
Wow.
that's you? He's like, yeah. He's just like, I'm so tempted to come. He's like, well, feel free, I can invite you. So it kind of happened like that. So basically, Health are the reasons why I'm showing up. But I did talk to Spine Firm Records, basically saying, hey guys, I will be at the Wembley Arena show. I plan on filming a lot of content. If there's any ideas that you guys would like me to do, then let me know. But I love to make it this collaborative. Like, it'd be amazing, but it won't happen. But like a Sleep Token interview, right? But that,
I mean, that would break the internet.
that would break the internet. I know, but obviously not that. But more, I was thinking about maybe interviewing the fans and while they're lining up, or maybe there's going to be a vlog for sure. I plan on making a vlog and just kind of me exploring the United Kingdom, because it is my first time leaving North America. I've always just been, yeah, it's a big thing. I've always just been to, I'm half Mexican, so I always go to Mexico, what feels like almost every year, and I love it there because it's warm. And as a Canadian, I try to do my best to escape the coldness.
You gotta get the vitamin C somewhere.
Yeah. So I always just find myself always in North America. I visited Dominican Republic, like in like Cuba and the States, but I've never actually visited across the pond. So this is a big thing, and I'm going to do my best to film as much content as I can, and just repurpose it, the content, figure out. I'm going to go with the flow. Like, there's going to be a vlog, there's probably going to be interviews, but who knows what else I'll film, and then just have a whole bunch of footage. That way I can, when I come back home, I'm like, okay, this is what I can do with this footage and right. It's going to be a whole week of me in United Kingdom and Sleep Token content.
That's so exciting, man. I'm excited for you, especially if it's your first time coming to the UK. That's a whole nother dimension to what will already be quite a surreal sort of experience at that gig. I mean, I'm going as a punter, and I am beside myself with excitement. And that's from someone who I was lucky enough to first listen to Sleep Token back in 2018. They were one of the bands that were on the Download Festival lineup, and I listen to every single band before I go, so I don't miss any hidden gems. And boy, were they a hidden gem. So I've been lucky enough to see them at like tiny venues and the rest. And yet I'm so excited for this like massive arena gig where I'll be a speck in the crowd. But there's going to be something about this gig post Take Me Back to Eden album. And it's a standalone gig. I think they're now doing another one in New York. But I'm really excited for it. And if I'm basically praying that they play Euclid. If they don't, I won't be mad. They don't have to play all the songs. But like, that would probably make me weep with joy. So we'll see what happens.
I literally just watched your album reaction earlier today.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the whole thing because it was so long, and I was low on time, but I did skip to the end where it was Euclid, and watching you get emotional, and it's totally like, can totally understand, because I got emotional too. My reaction to Euclid was a little bit weird because I was just shocked. I didn't know what But yeah, same kind of thing. I really hope they play Euclid. That song is beautiful. It's such a happy, in the key of the
Ah,
song, it's such
so
a happy
surprising. Like it
sounding.
comes out with major chords after such a dark and twisted but complex album. It was just like it had the sense that it's all going to be okay. And I've never, genuinely never cried ever in a reaction. And I fought so hard in that song. And like I remember being in this room going, I don't want to fucking cry on camera. How do I compose myself? But yeah, it was obvious I was not able to completely compose in that moment.
Cry, man, cry away. I totally understand, because I was the same way. There's a couple songs where I'm like, there's one song, Darko US, with oh my god, how am I forgetting the track name? But basically I got emotional during it because I was going through some personal things behind the scenes, and the song was just very sad, and I didn't want to put the video out. I'm just like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing, isn't it, to show like my emotions like this? But I'm like, you know what, it is a real authentic reaction, and I pride myself in being an authentic channel, so I'm like, you know what, I am going to put it out. But you are showing a very vulnerable side to you, and it is hard to do. And so I did it, and the band was so like, they really connected with the reaction. So with, just like with Sleep Token, if they see you getting emotional for it, I can only imagine that they love seeing that. They
Yeah, I
appreciate
suppose. Certainly bands of that nature, they're looking for impact. They want to have an emotional response. Otherwise they wouldn't create the kind of lyrical vastness that they do in that way. So yeah, I'm sure they got the result they're looking for. But and my brother, actually, I mentioned briefly, he was at the listening party that happened a week before the album came out. So it was just him and like 60 people in a room with the vessels like sat on stage, watching them all listen to the album from start to finish for the first time, which was not out yet. And that must like, so that also indicates he couldn't just have people listen to it remotely. He's like, I want to feel a room where people are hearing this work that I've been conjuring up for months. So eventually I want to get him to be willing to be interviewed for, like, to tell us the full story of that night, because it was kind of mad, that whole thing. What was your introduction to Sleep Token? Did that come from a request or recommendation via your channel, or did you learn of them by some other means?
So no, it was Truant, the reactor. So he did a video for the song Jaws, and I just clicked on it, and I remember just listening to the song and just being floored. I'm like, this song is amazing. And so I went to the music video, and the music video only had like 7,000 views or something, probably like so little. And I remember just showing this song to my friend and people, just like, listen to this amazing track. And it's funny because a lot of the people who listen to it, they're like, it's okay. Like, they didn't care for it at the time, but now they're all big Sleep Token fans, right? Like, I feel like that tends to be the case. But yeah, so I just became a fan of the band, and I remember making a video for Nazareth, because even though I already heard the song, I'm like, I still got to feature this band. So I made a video for Nazareth. Yeah. This was before Sundowning came out. And I think I was the very first person to make a video for something off Sundowning, because when Sundowning came out, The Offering came out, but I was having so many issues with copyright. It was getting copyright blocked a lot. So eventually I figured it out through using a lyric video over top, managed to override the copyright block. But I ended up just like showcasing this band to a lot of my followers. A lot of people discovered Sleep Token initially through that video. And let them behold, like, so many other people were also discovering them. Like you said you found them at Download Festival, right? That was 2018?
It was 2018. So I listened to their music, and it was just like Nazareth and Calcutta. It was a couple of EPs. And I was like, this is interesting. It's quite long. It's quite proggy. There's an exceptional voice in here. There's some interesting song development, and the drummer is fucking sick. And being a drummer first and foremost, I connected to that. It's like, well, I'm definitely going to go see them. And apparently they wear masks. That's intriguing. Let's have a look. And at that gig, they played Jaws, which hadn't been released yet. But that hit so trance-like live that myself and my brother and my friend just went like, what is going on? This is some next level music. And we were just like captivated from that point. And yeah, Sundowning was that religious experience of like a song a week, wasn't it? For like weeks, it's just one after another. But like, how is it still good? Every song.
That's another thing that I really like about this band too, like, is their marketing. So my background is from marketing and the business world. I was doing marketing for other companies, so I always appreciate good marketing when I see it. And Sleep Token are masters at marketing their music, and I really feel like that doesn't get talked about as enough as it should. And so when they were dropping these singles, and even before all this, being very deliberate with the mass and the whole lore behind this band, they were very they're doing this purposely to make it about the music, but make it more than about the music, right? And I thought it's a very smart idea. And so it's funny because the next record, This Place Will Become Your Tomb, was a little bit more of a safe marketing approach. Like they started releasing music videos. Right.
I'd agree. Also, kind of, yeah, like Alkaline, the music video was like this. I didn't really feel quite right for them. They've kind of gone away from that since. And also, the record itself, I don't revisit the same way I revisit Sundowning and Take Me Back to Eden, and even some of the earlier stuff. Like, there's some amazing songs on it, of course, but yeah, it was a different vibe somehow.
It's interesting to see what works, right? What sticks and what doesn't stick. So a lot of people do really like that record, but if we're looking at it from like a lens and a commercial lens and how successful it is, you can see that they tried different things. Even their branding was a little bit different. Vessel was like dropping the bullets, right, using all this Matrix stuff, making him seem like he's like this big, strong protagonist, right? But if we're going back to Take Me Back to Eden, it feels almost like the character designs are almost like Dark Souls or whatever, and I feel like the music is a lot more what's the word I'm looking for, like empathetic. It's not,
it's more emotional than it is about like punch of overt characters.
Exactly. And the whole marketing behind it too, like even the music videos, every creature comes to like its eventual fall, like they end up like dying the second half of the song or whatever, right? And it's just a whole different vibe than what they were doing with Alkaline, which is like, oh, look how big Vessel is. And like it's just kind of interesting that they went from a different marketing approach for that one, and then like even what was it, The Love You Want, they were using a bunch of swords, right?
Yeah, it was a bit of a departure. I mean, I'm sure it makes sense in the lore of the trilogy of albums, and maybe that was a strong point for the character, etc. But also, in terms of marketing, they did the greatest thing they could possibly do this year for the album when they released a song out of nowhere, and then the next day released another single out of nowhere, and then so everyone's going, "Oh, what's going to be happening day 3?" Nothing day 3. Like, okay, next week another song. Like, okay, there's going to be 2, and there was another one, and then like there was nothing for ages. Like they managed to constantly surprise you by subverting what you thought they were going to do, and that made everyone go mental. I was here at midnight in the UK going, "There's no song. I've stayed up. My kids are going to wake me up at 6 a.m. no matter what happens, but I'm here hoping there's a song, and there's nothing."
I know I did the same thing because I was live streaming every song, and so I would be like, okay guys, we're about to go live, we're about to like come out, and then we would go live, and then we're like, then nothing, and we're like, okay, so let's check out some other songs, I guess. And it was just like a little bit quiet. But I really want to talk to whoever was Spine Farm or Sleep Token who came up with that idea. And I have no idea what it is, but I like to think this is all an assumption that maybe after the 4th track, they took a little bit of a break because maybe they didn't expect the summoning to go viral. So they're like, maybe instead of dropping all these songs all at once, maybe let's take a little bit of a break and then drop Vor a little bit later on. And then it was like, Do You Wish That You Loved Me, which was like track 8. I do feel like the marketing changed after they went viral.
It's possible. Who knows? It's equally possible that that Vessel's involved in a lot of those details, I suspect. Maybe that whole thing was planned and mapped out. What surprised me was that they did not end up releasing essentially every song one by one as a single. Because what I like about that as well, on a musical point of view, is you give every song time to breathe and be heard and understood. It's not just in the middle of an album that you listen to. So they by that way, they are valuing those songs and hoping everyone spends the time one by one. And I think as a result, like Do You Wish That You Would Love Me probably got more listening and attention than it would have done if it was just buried on the album, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of all the songs being dropped as singles, like It's unfortunate that we still don't have visualizers for the rest of the remaining tracks too. That would
Mm,
have been a nice visual treat.
yeah,
But
maybe one day, because clearly there's an artist that they've used that's made that happen. Um, Harkening back to something else you were saying earlier about when you were first showing them Sleep Token, people were like, I don't know, and then big love for them. There's this arc of bands that if you're lucky enough to be one of these bands that explodes, that kind of happens. And what's interesting to see now is that it's tipping the other way, and now it's not cool to think Sleep Token were amazing because everyone knows Sleep Token, and everyone says that they were great. So now people are like, they're kind of all right because they're so popular. Kind of like I saw this with Linkin Park way back in the day. Now, it was not cool to like Linkin Park because they were so massive, but it comes back around. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few years with Sleep Token. There's a
oh
lot of
yeah,
like pressure in quotes for the next record, but hopefully they don't feel that. They're just going to write whatever they're going to write, and I'm sure it'll be grand. But it's an intense moment for the band.
I always feel like I have such niche taste in music, and so it's cool to see a band like Sleep Token blow up and see other people understand like what I feel a little bit isolated in. Like I always, so it's cool to see a band blow up and other people like, yeah, this band is really good, right? It's cool to see them get the success. But then there's a lot of people that hate on it, and I totally agree. It happened with Linkin Park. I use Bring the Horizon as a massive example too, because when Bring the Horizon was deathcore, all the deathcore people were like, "Oh, this band sucks. They're lame. Only girls like them." Right? It was all the macho energy,
Really?
right? And oh yeah, Bring the Horizon got so much hate, and then basically they started to continue transition. And Sempiternal, I think, was when it started to get a little bit more beloved. And then they went into a different direction, and a lot of people still hated on it. And now it's getting to a point where like Bring the Horizon is always 2 steps ahead. That people are like, I'm going to respect it and enjoy it. So it's a band that seems that now people seem to like, and I really feel like that's going to be the case with Sleep Token. Give them like 10 years, and then people come back to this album like, okay, I was being a
Yeah.
hater just for the sake of being a hater, because I understand it when everyone likes the same thing. I can fall into this where like you almost want to be a contrarian a little bit, because you want to be an independent thinker, like, oh no,
You want to
like
be interesting. You don't want to feel
you
like
want to
you're
be
part of the
interesting.
herd.
Exactly, you totally do. But I do feel like a lot of people who hate Sleep Token just because of the name Sleep Token, they'll come
Yeah.
back probably 10 years later and go like, okay, this actually was good music. I was just being a hater because, but yeah, we'll see what happens in 10 years, man.
Yeah. And what they've done, and this is something I've enjoyed you showing and commenting on, is by breaking through to the kind of massive scale of ears that they now have, it creates a kind of crack in the wall of the metal area. And it's going to let more people in. People are like, well, I like this, so what else might I like that's in that realm that my metalhead friends were talking about Sleep Token for a while? What else do they know that I might love as much? And another moment that was like that this year was the Spirit Box Megan Thee Stallion collaboration, which it's had mixed reviews. I fucking loved it. But then it reminded me
Yeah.
of like when Cypress Hill did their like rock superstar thing back in the day. There's moments where those things come together. And I think this will be a moment that we'll look back on in years. There is going to be an artist in the metal scene in a few years' time that we think is fucking incredible. And they'll say, I got into metal because of that Megan Thee Stallion song. And I brought all of my other influences that wasn't metal when I was growing up into that world. And that's why I'm creating this unique music. You can't create it's the kind of metalcore joke now that it's all kind of sounding similar. You need other influences, other ideas to shape something brand new. And I think that's what's going to happen from that collaboration, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was a big advocate about that when I initially made a video for it, basically calling out the elitists and basically like them going to hate on it because it's Megan Thee Stallion. Oh, this sucks. But I really do my best to change the mindset of metalheads. I really do think metal can be bigger, more successful, more interesting with the less gatekeeping that it has. And I think gatekeeping and elitism is like, it's a little bit subconscious, right? They don't realize that like, oh, working with Megan Thee Stallion, like I understand this does good things for the scene, but Megan Thee Stallion, why her and not like someone else? Like, and the reason is people don't realize Megan Thee Stallion is also like a female, and so they're trying to get like the big powerful females in both spectrums of like or genres, right? So it makes sense from a marketing reason why they would have Megan Thee Stallion. And sure, like she might have some controversy. Who doesn't have controversy? Who's that big, right? But I really do see it as a good gateway stepping stone for the music scene. And if you don't like the song, totally fine. Like I think
You don't
I
have
think
to
the song
listen
is
to it.
cool.
Like,
Yeah, at least give it a shot. If you don't like it, like feel free to give some criticism about it, because I do think the song, I like the original more. I actually like the original more than this remix. But you know, it's you can still understand what it's trying to do and what it's trying to do for the scene. And you can call Spirit Box sellouts or whatever, but I think this whole sellout talk is a little bit outdated. You know, I used to really fall into that trap when I was younger. Is just like, oh, this band's selling out. And it really can depend. Like if the band is still writing, or if they're kind of writing more safe music, then yeah, it can be a little bit of a letdown. But at the same time, like if the band is actually exposing so much more people to the scene, then guess what? We're going to get way more bands. We're going to get way more interesting sounds, and it's going to make this scene even more lively and interesting, and people are going to understand it more. I want the metal scene to be huge, but I do understand the other side of this. You want it, it's like your little like subculture that you're part of. It's your little clique, and I understand the appeal of that, but at the same time, like I want to see the bands that I like be super successful. You know, we have hip hop. Speaking of the Megan Thee Stallion collab, it's funny with Megan Thee Stallion is that the audience, the hip hop heads, were all like checking out Spirit Box, and they thought it was really cool. They were like, I'm getting so many comments about that where they were actually very accepting of it, and they thought it was awesome. They were listening to Spirit Box now because of it. Where the opposite end, a lot of metalheads were just like, oh, this is stupid. Screw this, right? It's just a whole different mindset from two different fan bases. Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising, because increasingly I found the metal scene has actually been great at collaborating with other genres and bringing those things in. It's odd that the musicians seem more open to that kind of variety of things. It's more some selection groups of fans that are going like, no, keep our thing. But
yeah,
you gotta feed the artists as well. You gotta build a sustainable source of the music you love, and that's going to take more ears to enjoy it.
I love it how, sure, when bands sell out, they might write a little bit more safe music for sure. But at the same time, you got bands like Spirit Box who still write Cellar
Nothing
Door,
safe about that EP.
Angel Eyes, right? They still write really heavy songs, and it's so cool to see that heavy music is in. And this is funny, man. I talk a lot. So I remember watching an old video of mine back in like 2019 or something, one of my very first early videos, and I was talking about I want the music to be heavy again. Like, why is metal so soft? Like, what happened to the metal's edge? And I remember just listening to that commentary. I'm like, that's so funny, because I feel like music is heavier than ever right now, and it's getting more widely accepted. It's so cool how it's okay to write really heavy music, and heavy is kind of trendy, right? And I think more short
if a pop rock song doesn't have a scream vocal in its breakdown, you're like, oh, they've missed an opportunity there. Like, that's kind of now the norm. If your vocalist can't also scream, are they even a vocalist? Like, that's sort of like what's happening at the moment, which is it's kind of unexpected. But I don't mind it at all, because I think the reason I love metal is for the dynamic musical variety that can exist within it. So I tend not to go for like blast beats, the Lorna Shores of the world that are very like full on for the whole thing, because there's less dynamic for groove in the rest. That's my own thing, but metal gives the opportunity for the heaviness, but also some light, some color, some harmonies, and the rest. So my sweet spot tends to be things like Bring Me the Horizon or A Day to Remember, those kind of bands there, or things like Sleep Token, of course, as well, as we mentioned. Now, actually, on the topic of collaborations, I've had a few questions come in from YouTube viewers. One, William Paul says, what collaborations would you love to see in 2024? They threw up a few, I don't know if they're possibilities or hopes, but they wanted to see Motionless in White with, I think, Polyphia or something. But actually, they mentioned Sleep Token and Polyphia might be an interesting one. That could be a good collaboration. Do you think in terms of that at all, or can you dream up two artists that you love that you think, if those stars combined, it could be interesting?
I think that's a great content idea. I'm like, I'm gonna have to write this down because I love to make a video on this. But yeah, well, actually, Sleep Token Polyphia, I think that's a really cool combo. I definitely agree with that person. There's the band Health that I mentioned earlier. I would love to see them work with Viljarta. It's funny because Health. Are you familiar with Health's music at all?
I heard a snippet of them from one of your shorts. Because I figured it seemed like I looked at it as like an industrially rock kind of electronic thing. So I'm like, it's probably not going to be for my channel. It's why I could dip into it and see what it's like. It sounds really interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing them at Wembley. Viljarta, I've not heard yet. Drew Fortune's after me doing a couple of albums of theirs, and I need to find the time because it's like long.
But, yeah, Viljarta, that's a must. But basically, yeah, Health is like industrial. They started off more noise rock, but I feel like they are trying to get more into the metal sphere. But yeah, so synthwave, metal wave, whatever you want to call it. But if they worked with like a fall band like Viljarta, that would be such an encompassing, cool sound. So I told them when I had them on the podcast, like, I'd love for you guys to collaborate, and that band already collaborates a lot. They collaborate with Lamb of God, Nine Inch Nails, Poppy. They've already done a bunch, so it makes sense for them to do that. But let's see, I think Sleep Token, they already did a cool collab with Loathe. I wouldn't mind even a little bit more of that. I think they work really well together. I don't know if we're going to be talking about metalcore. I guess a metalcore enthusiast's wet dream would be Silent Planet and Ven Animate. That'd be a cool.
Yeah, geez, can you imagine?
Yeah. r/metalcore would be going nuts over that one. But yeah. I don't know. What's a good collab that you would think?
Oh, I no clue. But I'm thinking about my favorites this year. It's hard to get past Sleep Token. Silent Planet, I've really enjoyed. I'm a big fan of Beartooth. I could see them doing an interesting collaboration with a kind of super heavy band, maybe, and bring those two forces together. I know their latest album has some heavy moments, but they were obviously heavier in the past. But that album, The Surface, for me is probably top 3 albums of this year for me. But that's in my wheelhouse of it's a perfect balance of heaviness and fucking insanely catchy choruses, but not corny catchy. The melodies themselves, the way it's built, is just brilliant. It's perfect, polished, heavy rock. So anything Beartooth would do.
I'm very surprised by that record. I'm also really vocal about that we need more self-love lyrics. And it's funny because you said it's not corny, but like there's a bunch of people in my comments, at least, that say like, oh, I would like this if the lyrics weren't so corny. I'm like, that's another thing that needs to change in this metal scene, is that we really embrace negative lyrics and like, tortured souls, and there's something like that we like about those artists, right? But when someone's actually doing well and is like self-loving, for some reason that's cringy. Why should that be cringy when someone is actually doing well and could be a role model for other people? So there's another thing that needs to change in the metal scene, is that besides the whole gatekeeping elitism, is that we need to learn to embrace how to become healthier, better people. And I really love that Caleb Shomo is a big role model right now in that regard.
100%. And I think probably the discomfort comes from, it sort of shows us a mirror if we think it's corny, like, because we maybe recognize it. I don't necessarily feel deserving of love and worth. So for someone else to feel that way, I don't want to look in that mirror and see how I actually feel. I'm just going to dismiss that as that's not relevant. That's a whatever thing. But actually, if we spent the time to look inwardly, we'd be like, maybe there's some broken pieces I need to put together,
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I know you probably got a whole slew of questions, but dude, I'd love to ask you some questions too. Like, I'd like to know how you got into the whole reaction game too.
Yeah, good question. I mean, as I alluded to earlier, when I first saw them, I was like, really, is this a thing? But then I found myself watching them because it was really compelling. And I remember, even before that, I've done the odd YouTube thing here. I film myself, my now wife, going on holiday and put videos together. I've liked that aspect of things. And having been a musician, I was talking to my brother. I was like, I think I could add some value to this, because who the fuck cares? Why about my opinion? There's no need for another channel to exist. These guys are already doing a great job of this. Your channel was one of the ones I saw before I ended up doing my own. And I remember thinking, like, what can I add that's different? My brother's like, you're a fucking musician. What are you talking about? You play drums and guitar and bass. You're in several bands in your 20s. Like, you have plenty to talk about. I was like, okay, maybe. I needed him to give me the shove to actually set up a camera and hit record and go, okay, hi, YouTube. I'm going to listen to, it was Spirit Box Circle With Me was the first song I ever checked out for the channel, and then uploaded that. And I was like, and overnight there was, I think this is a massive, my head exploded. I got like 6 subscribers and 100 views overnight. I was like, what? That's insane. But for the first year, my music taste is quite wide. So I was listening to metal, I was listening to like ballad singers, I was listening to the funk, like jazz, all sorts of things. So YouTube was like, I don't know who to send this to, bro. So I ended up after a year spending more time in my first love, which is rock, heavy alternative rock, essentially, which includes metal and pop punk and the rest. And that's what started to build the sense of community, and people like, oh, are people, you know, I can talk to them about and recommend, and they're recommending me more relevant bands I then enjoy. So now it feels like I'm on a path to discover the best rock music in the world, according to my own sentiment, and the world is sending me recommendations for what that could be. And that's the thing I enjoy. But then I enjoy listening to the songs from the point of view of a musician. Because of the multi-instrumentalist aspect, I can't just hear a song from start to finish. I hear every single line. I hear all the production things in one go, which is kind of like chaos madness in my head. And doing the channel helps me let that out and have a vent for it, as it were. But yeah, genuinely, when I was watching, before I did my channel, you were one of the channels that I checked out. And I think that helped to add the value that it wasn't just about showcasing reaction entertainment stuff. It was also discussion points, which allowed me to think maybe there is a place for a nuanced discussion about why this song I think is good is not just because, hey, banger chorus. What are the elements to this? What's the context to this? And it showed there was an audience for the discussion that I was interested in having. So that's kind of why I ended up doing it.
Yeah, there is an audience that is a little bit smaller. Some people just want to watch you headbang to a breakdown, but there's
you can see the dip on the
yeah, you can. I know, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like I make these videos for the people who really enjoy the discussions, right? But you know, I feel maybe you don't realize like what I enjoy about your channel. So what I like about you is, first of all, video and audio quality. I do enjoy. I really feel like people don't talk about that enough in comments, but as like a content creator to another, like your audio quality is crisp, video quality,
Thanks.
like to me that's like super important. So that's one reason. But then also like you just got like a calming voice. You do have a nice voice for this, and it's friendly. I like it when you go like and go, and then you just kind of like a little zoom in, right? It's just like a easy way to get into the reaction. And yeah, I noticed that you don't dwell too much in the intros, even though like there is a place for that too, but you do know what you're doing. And then you have some discussion pieces. I'm like, oh, this guy's like a good content creator. And I watched I watched your interview with Drew Fortune, and then I'm like, damn, you're a good interviewer too. So yeah, I was super stoked to come on this podcast after delving into more of your content.
Oh, I'm honored. How do you remember where you first saw one of my videos, or how you became aware of my channel at all? Probably
man,
Sleep
I'm
Token
not sure.
in some form.
It could have been. It's funny because I probably did see you like around before, just seeing the thumbnails, maybe watch like 5 seconds and then move on to something else, to be completely honest, because like there's so many reactors and they always kind of drop off that I might watch a little bit of it and I might see your thumbnails, I might recognize the face, but then to actually do a deep dive into the content, I really don't know what it was for me, whether it probably was Sleep Token, to be honest. Like
because I imagine YouTube is like, you might enjoy this. It's Sleep Token, so.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I pulled in a big Sleep Token audience too. I was very surprised by that, but yeah, I had to have been the Sleep Token videos, man. That's probably how I discovered you.
Nice. Yeah, a quick one. The and go thing was simply because I record on my camera and I do a recording on the laptop, and I have to sync it in my editor afterwards. I don't do it like in one go on OBS or anything. So I need to, it's like a clapper. I go and go, and I know I've hit go on the computer. That's why that's happened. It's purely like a functional thing. But now it sort of helps me get into the.
I used to do that with the space bar. I had a really loud space bar, so I just like click it really loud so I could hear it. But now all my stuff is through OBS. I just click record and yeah.
I think I will need a better PC to do that. I'm running on a MacBook, and it's a strong MacBook, but it is not enough for the GPU that would necessitate a really high quality OBS thing. But
Oh, I understand. That's what I was on a MacBook too through the spacebar. That's what I was using, but now I got the PC set up. So
nice.
But yeah, that's another thing that people might not realize when it comes to reactions. Like, sure, like it is the easier content, right? But it's like it's also the setup, and the setup is super time consuming.
I would say rather than easy, it is really low point of entry, which I think is great. This is a great way for anyone to go, what can I do if I upload a video? Like, you can do a reaction video and get that experience and see if it's something you enjoy and whether that's enjoyable enough to sustain you through, as you're saying, the setup, equipment, gear. The editing side of things is long. Do you enjoy editing? I think over time I'm enjoying it less.
That's a great question. I can definitely elaborate on that. So it's funny because like a lot of reactions, people don't care about editing. You can literally record on a potato and just like it's so if people just want to hear you rave about a song, right? There's those kind of viewers, but I really made a deliberate, like I've always done a lot in editing, like even my early videos that are not reactions, I spent a lot of time in editing through camera angles and through zoom ins. And so I've always been really keen on it. But this year I made some severe changes where I'm like, okay, I want to change my reactions because I feel like I spend more time on my reviews than I do on my reactions in terms of editing, in terms of what I like and enjoy about my own content. But people tend to dip off after the reaction, and it is what it is. But I'm like, okay, how can I make the reactions more engaging? So I changed my editing, and how I learned to change my editing was through making a bunch of TikToks. The whole like TikTok look with the music video at the top and the going back and forth. Like I remember just doing this because I knew the attention span was short. I'm like, okay, this is a cool editing style. So I was just doing it for a while, and then I realized, well, I don't want to take this style and bring it to my YouTube video. So I mentioned in January, I've been vocal about my changes, but basically the way that I edit now is that I work alongside the pacing of the music. So I might show the main so with Sleep Token, like I was also vocal about this. Like if there's a specific part in the song, like I'll put that as the main frame. And if someone says something interesting in the chat, then I'll zoom in on them. And then like I'll do a slow pace but if the drums pick up, then
I've not noticed that. That sounds genius. So if it's a quicker moment of the song, you could do faster edits. It's more in keeping sonically, visually. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I work alongside the pacing of the music is basically what I've done. I've noticed a few other reactors kind of doing the same thing now too, and it's also like doing the half you and then the other half is like the music video and the main screen. Like, why does it have to be just a rectangle in the corner, right? So then I'm like, because I borrowed it from TikTok. I'm like, TikTok's like half me and half music video. I'm like, why don't I do that for my full YouTube video? So I started doing that, and now it's just almost becoming the norm. I'm seeing in a lot of channels actually incorporating a lot of these editing styles, and it's cool because if other people are doing it too, what it does is that it makes the reaction content more engaging. It's just like, oh, this is not just lazy content. They're actually putting a lot of effort into editing. Orion Reacts is insane.
I was about to ask, has he been an influencer? Because his channel has done incredibly well. I appreciate him as a reactor. I like his stuff. His editing is out of this world. How much of that influenced your decision to then add to the editing complexity of your own? And do you in some way feel trapped by now your low bar for editing is much higher, and so you can't just phone in a video in theory? I suppose you could and just go like, just gonna have a basic like 2 thing, but you've set a bar for yourself now, right?
Totally. And it's funny that you talk about that because like with Orion, like I'll call him out, and I have before because we're buddies, but he totally took my editing style, but then he revamped it, right? Because when I was doing these TikTok edits of like going back and forth between the music video and then the zoom ins and stuff, Orion was just doing like the regular YouTube videos and just doing the square format. But then he's just like, because we hung out, and he's just like, oh man, Metalbirb is up in his editing game, which means I have to. So, but what he did, he understands his TikToks or his editing style just translates so freaking well for short form content. And so he blew up. And I can't say his editing style totally influenced mine because he does a lot of things that doesn't necessarily work for me. There's like camera shaking and it turns into red. I'm like, I can't really do that. That's not me. So I do really feel like our editing styles are still very different. Like he does his thing and I have my thing where like I work alongside the pace and the music, but he does like he captures like silly faces, or like he does like cool like fonts. His I feel like is he uses a lot of effects. He's more of like an effect guy.
Right.
I think that's the best way to sum it up.
And all that kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I started incorporating the camera shake because I'm like, oh, maybe I should.
It works on a heavy breakdown and a hit. It totally makes sense. And given we're making videos, it makes sense for you to have a visual representation of what you're feeling and enjoying in your head. I've seen your work and Orion's work and other channels. I'm thinking that's amazing. It's certainly more engaging. I love watching it. I unfortunately don't have the time. I'm just like, because I've got a full-time job, which is not YouTube, and I've got 2 small children, and I also have a wife to hang out with. And like I'm full tilt every day, so I have such limited time to make the videos. I'm just like, I'm going to commit to like a little bit of engagement at the intro. Once we go, it's just the fucking video. Not because that's what I think is best, but it's like I don't have. If I can choose either high quality videos and do like 1 a week, or get to as many of the songs as I can, which is what I'm more interested in terms of what my channel can or do and the rest. It's a tricky balance ultimately, right? Because if you didn't have so much busy editing, you could have tons of videos, but I guess you're full-time, so you're able to have a lot of output anyway, right?
Yeah, so I am full-time, and it is so much work. So I can't even imagine what it's like being a dad too. And well, I did do the full-time job while being a YouTuber, but then they wanted us back in the office because it was like post lockdowns. They're like, okay, time to come back in the office. I'm like, maybe not me. I want to stay put over here. So, but yeah, it is a lot of output, but I have changed the way I upload to my YouTube channel lately, because back in the day it was like, I didn't do as much editing and I would just film every reaction and then upload every reaction. So I was very deliberate to have 1 video a day, always like 1 video a day, whether I like the song or dislike the song, it is what it is. But now I'm like, well, this video, for the amount of editing and work, is it going to get views? Like, because views are currency. And people don't click on underground bands. So I'm like, is it really worth it to put all this editing and time if the ROI, the like return on investment, is not worth it? So I'm much more careful about what I put on my main YouTube channel. But then I realized the shorts, the Instagram reels and the TikToks is where you can do much shorter content, but it still does the same thing. Here's a new song. Here's a cool song for you to check out. I'm like, just put it out there. But like a full YouTube video, I'm much more choosy with what goes on the channel. Is yours like kind of how do you kind of like construct what goes on your channel?
So I'm fortunate in that I have a brother who's a couple years older than me and has basically the same taste in music as I have. So any request that comes my way, I send to him, and he goes, worth a reaction, not worth a reaction. And that's either, I think you'll like it, or I'm not sure if you like it, but there's plenty to talk about, I think. And he won't tell me why or what it is, so that I'm completely, fresh and unknown. So that massively filters down the possible content already. And then it's rare, but if through that filter, I happen to be a minute into the reaction, I'm like, I actually don't have much to add to this. I don't feel like this is going to add value. I might even just hit stop on the camera halfway through, be like, I'm bailing on that one. I don't have anything interesting to say. Or there's a couple where it's a kind of unknown band and I didn't really dig it as much. And I'm not about to put up a video for an unknown band and be like, because that doesn't help them. It doesn't help anyone find a new artist necessarily. Maybe that band's not ready for, give them a few songs and then they'll be better. It doesn't feel good. So that I might put on Patreon, be like, for those that want everything that I'm doing, you can check that out. Maybe you'll find some interesting discussion there. But for the most part, because I'm limited in time and they all get filtered from my brother, I'm only getting to songs that I'm excited about, turns out, and then that kind of works. And I try and do like 4 or 5 a week, but I'll have like an hour on a weekend where I'll do 5 reactions. And then during the week, I'll here and there in between bedtime routines for the kids and the stuff, edit stuff, and then upload them when I can. That's kind of how my process goes.
Hey, if it works for you, then there you go.
Yeah, it's working thus far. Like it's I'm hoping that it builds and it becomes something that I can eventually one day go full time with it. But I don't think that's for quite a while because kids are so expensive. My barrier to like full time YouTube money is much higher than I would like it to be. So,
I know. Kudos to you, man.
but the main thing is, I'm really enjoying it. This is so much fun. So I don't mind that it's not like, you know, I'm not getting paid masses for it. Everything's like copyright and the rest. Like I just enjoy doing it. It's been so fulfilling, just the act of creating the videos and engaging with the comments. But then mad things happen, like you go to a gig and the band go, "Hey, I know you. I watched your videos," and my head just pops.
I know,
When
right?
was the first time that happened for you that you went, "Oh shit, this band has actually watched my video"?
Yeah, it happened with the band Oh Sleeper. So this is a band that I've loved since like high school, right? They're a little bit more underground, but I went to a concert and the guitarist was like, "Hey, I know you." I'm like, "No way." And this is like my first year doing the channel. I was so ecstatic. And then after the show, we went to the bar and we were all doing shots together and stuff, and we were hanging out. And then he commented on my Instagram post about the band, just saying like, "Great to meet you, buddy," and stuff. I'm like, "This is so cool. Oh, no way." Yeah, it's crazy what you can do when you put yourself out there, man. Like I really um it it's so weird. Like the following that I have is still hard to grasp a little bit, you know, and going to a concert and getting recognized. It's weird because like the it's so parasocial, right? These people know you, but you don't know
Yes.
them.
Like you're their best friend. They've seen so much of your face and your tone. They'll know you really well,
yeah,
but you're like, "I don't know you."
I had one guy come up to me just like, "So how was Mexico, bro?" And I'm
Like, "You mean my family holiday?"
yeah, I know. I'm just like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I did make that public, but yeah." And then he's just talking to me. He's like, "Oh yeah, I saw all your Instagram stories." I'm like, I do kind of you have to put yourself out there as a content creator, right? People want to know. So, but it is weird when people kind of notice it, and you're just like, I don't know. It's such a weird scenario, and that's totally what bands feel like too, right?
Mm.
But
How has
yeah,
it changed your experience of going to gigs? Does it enhance your experience or does it hinder it?
no, it totally enhances, and the reason is another reason why I started my channel is just because I don't have friends who enjoy the same music as me, and I had so many opinions about it. So I wanted to talk about it and hopefully maybe meet people. That would be really cool. And so when I go to concerts now, people recognize me, and a lot of people do get shy. A lot of people are just like, "Oh, hi, like I just want to say I really enjoy your videos. Like take care." And then they walk away. I'm like, "No, no, no, like it's okay. Like we can talk. Like let's talk music." So I end up just like, "Oh, so who are you here for?" And then they talk. I'm like, "Oh," and then I notice their shirt. I'm just like, "Oh yeah, like Tool. Like let's talk about Tool a little bit, right?" And then end up seeing those people again at concerts, and then now there's a community of people that I know when I go to concerts. So it is,
That's cool.
no, it is a great thing, and I totally love also the bands now reaching out and asking me to come out to concerts. Like it's such a weird surreal thing because I never imagined as a kid having this opportunity where like Imminence, the band Imminence, invited me out recently to come to their concert, which I thought was very strange because I've been pretty critical about their music in the past, but they still invited me out, and they were so friggin' nice to me. They got me like a shirt
Maybe that's the
and
game, man. We'll invite him out. We'll be really nice, and then he'll feel like he
oh,
should be nicer.
they called me out on it too because I
Oh shit!
mentioned, yeah, it's funny because like one of my criticisms that they always say the hook, the song title, they always say the song title in the hook of their chorus or whatever.
Right.
and, every song, like if you know the
If you
song
notice
title,
that pattern, it's gonna get old.
yeah, so if you know the song title, you already know the hook of the song.
Right.
So and then the guitarist, he's just like, yeah, it's basically like singing the song title like in the chorus, right? And I'm just like, oh yeah, it was just like awkward silence. I'm like, lay it on me. But they're like, if that's the only criticism that we get, then that means we're doing something right. I'm like,
Yeah.
there you go. But I told them like, yeah, guys, like, but at the same time, I want to let you know that your new stuff I think is the best stuff that you've ever put out, and like
Nice.
I'm being genuine about that too. So, but yeah, no, has it been like cool to have you gone to meet a lot of bands too doing this?
Not a ton, but it's happened this year a few times. The very first time was earlier this year, and I went to see Void of Vision, who I'm a massive fan of, and I saw them a small gig in the UK, and I assume that no one watches my channel, even though obviously there's numbers and the rest. But like, I went to the singer was at the merch table, and I was heading out of the venue, and they'd already played their set. I wasn't that into the headliner, so I was like, "Hey man, just want to say fucking great set," and turned to leave, and he goes, "Do you react to our songs online?" But with an Australian accent. And I was like, I don't know what he said for the next 2 minutes, because I just went, what the fuck's just happened? I feel lucky to even be able to shake this dude's hand, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know you. I like your videos." I wasn't ready for that, and it's happened a couple of times since, and it's amazing, but also quite daunting, because then you realize, oh shit, all the bands watching this stuff. You don't really even though people said that will happen, I'm like, I still don't expect that. And it worries me sometimes, because I'm like you, I'm very honest. So there are times, and one of the hardest reactions I've had to do was this year, one of the bands I love, and I know they watch the channel, and they released a new single, and I thought it was solid, which is still, all my ratings are quite positive. I'm a generally positive person, but like, solid for me is like, it was all right. It was decent. It was a decent song. And I was like, I want to give it a delicious, because I fucking love this band. I'm like, but I don't think the song is there. And I had to stick with my guns and be like, I think this is what this is. That was tough. That was Void of Vision. So that was the band that like the singer met me, and I was just like, their latest single, I thought it was, I don't want to pull another band into this, but I'm about to. Like, in an Architects kind of way, it was just a bit safer somehow. It didn't have as much of a connection through the song, even though the song was structurally fine and it had catchiness and had some heaviness. It just didn't connect in the way that some other things have. So, but then that can happen, and that's fun. And it can also, it's not like, oh, that band's going down a dark hole. It's like, While She Sleeps released 2 new songs. The second from recent one, I didn't connect with. I didn't really dig that. The most recent one, I fucking loved. So like, there's subjectivity, obviously, and I'm always ready for the band to surprise me in a positive way in the future. Even if I haven't dug the last album, I'm still like, let's give this a listen. I'm hoping that I love this,
They all watch every video, is my understanding. Like, pretty much every band watches the videos.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying. I've been told by Era, like, oh yeah, everybody watches reaction videos. Yeah. So because of it, this might sound a little bit narcissistic, but I do feel like us as reactors are playing a bigger role than people might realize in terms of the way that music is being played or made lately. I do feel like it doesn't get talked about so much, but all these bands watch reactions and we give them real reviews, right? It's not the same as comments that you see on Instagram posts, where it can be very biased. It could be a lot of the same super fans commenting like, this is the greatest thing you ever made, which might actually confuse bands a little bit. Just like, okay, that means we're doing something right, but that's just the super fans always just loving everything that they do. But then there's people like us who are much more nuanced, who actually explain what we're liking or what we're not liking. They can see the views. They can see what I do really feel like what we have to say is actually much bigger than we might actually realize.
I follow that thread. That logically makes sense, but that's kind of scary.
It is like... well, there's obviously people like Nick Nocturnal who just like gets in like crazy amount of views, right? So
I get the part that we can be essentially tastemakers of, the song comes out, and if the reactor community, whatever it is, ends up going like, this is kind of all right, the people that watch that are more likely to think, well, I agree with a lot of what they say. I think they're right. I think this is kind of all right. You can kind of inadvertently steer a early adopter opinions of a song early on, which is a bit of a worry, because, and you said this before, I think in your videos, but like, bands can do what they want. Like, it doesn't matter if I like or don't like it, if anyone likes or don't like it. Like, they should write what they want to write. If they want to go off a completely different direction, do it. Like, is their prerogative. They don't have to listen to anything that we say. Like, I don't really want them to be influenced by what I have to say. Like, I want them to be creative and artistic and do their own thing. I value critique and the discussion, but I feel like that's something that, fans of music and appreciators can do, but the artists should be free to do whatever the hell they want.
Totally. It's such a fine line, right? It's such a fine line to create the art that they want to create, but also if they're a band that's established and say they're not getting as many streams or plays or ticket sales, they're like, oh god, like this is our career. We might have to rethink what we do a little bit. And it's funny because hanging out with Imminence, I was asking them like what their favorite artists are, and frig, like the guitarist said, oh, he doesn't even listen to metal, he listens to Motown, right? Like
Yeah,
a lot of
nice.
these bands are actually creating music as a career, right? And it
Yeah,
just
there's a guy in North
so
Lane apparently who's doesn't listen to metal either. And he's just, but this is
yeah,
the music I create.
yeah, this is the music that they create, and they know what they're doing. And if they were to just write an EDM record or something, that wouldn't really work. So there is a fine line of obviously trying to create the art that they want to create, but also they have to keep the art going. They have to. It's like us as reactors. I would love to feature all this non-metal music. I would love to feature all these obscure bands, but I know people watching don't want to see that all the time. They want to see me talk about maybe Motionless in White drops a new song. I'll still make a video for it because Motionless in White has one of the biggest fan bases. I'm not a big fan of their music, but I still might enjoy the song, but I'm still might be critical about it, but I'm still going to make a video on it because that's what the people want. But if I do a video, like one of my latest videos, it was like for a band called No Kind of Rider. I'm like, favorite non-metal discovery of 2023. It tanked in views for me. It did so poorly because no one cares. They don't, it's this indie rock band that I just really enjoy. But also that's a me video. That's me doing a video that I just wanted. I have to, because a whole bunch of other videos. I've been checking out this what is it? Boy What? It's like the AI Plankton metal band. Have you checked them out yet?
I've seen that, have not heard it, I've not checked it out because it became a meme thing that the channels are doing. Like, I think I've missed the bus and I'm not going to just jump on it. So I'm actually just I've not checked it out, but I'm sure it's mad.
Well, honestly, it views and you can monetize the video, which is nice. There's no copyright, and the songs are fun. The songs are fun. I will say that. So it is definitely a fun reaction video, but I can't say I'm going to be listening to it all the time on my Spotify. Right?
I mean, and part of when it comes to me and choosing songs, I'm fortunate, I think, in some way, even though I would love to be in a position that I'm doing it full time, because I'm not. And I don't rely on it for paying the bills, I am completely have free reign to not give a fuck about views, even though I know the views can help growth the channel, etc. But like, I can just put out a video, and if it tanks, like if there's only, I don't know, 100 views on it, I'll be like, whatever. I loved the song, I enjoyed the video, and maybe one day it'll find the audience. So that's quite freeing. So on a similar thing, if there's a big thing that takes off, I don't need to jump on it if I'm like, I don't actually want to spend time with Avenged Sevenfold. So I'm not going to do their songs anymore because, like, actually, I don't think I'm going to enjoy that. I'm just soothing myself that's the perk that I have to go to work.
It's true, man. Enjoy it as a hobby, right? But there are ways to monetize the channel. So you were talking about,
there's the AdSense, obviously, this side of things, but yeah, there's other ways, but
there's many other ways, and I do love talking about it because I do think it needs to be more transparent. I think it's okay to make money as a content creator doing this.
100%.
It's just like as a band. So like I do think a lot of labels are finally working with us. So definitely work on getting those copyrights removed. That's an awesome thing to do. But Patreon is very lucrative. Doing the live streams, like you'll be surprised how supportive your community is. I was very surprised when I started live streaming because I kept getting told by like Hardcore Keem and Nick, like go on Twitch, like trust me, like do it, like it'll help you. I'm like, okay, so I did, and let and behold, they're just flooding in donations. I'm like, I can't even keep up. Like it's crazy.
Amazing. I don't think I've got the audience size for that yet.
No, you do. You do.
I don't know.
You'd be surprised. You do. That's exactly the same kind of thought that I had at the beginning. It's very
maybe 2024 I'll look into that.
Yeah, I say look into it, man, and it helps, right? But then at the same time you might be adding more to your plate, and then you might be like getting a little bit worried about, and then that's where burnout comes, right? That's
the risk.
The pressure, you're doing more content, and then you have personal things, and burnout is a real thing when it comes to this. This is a whole side tangent, but I see comments saying like, oh, this is not a real job. And I joke about it like, oh yeah, what we do is not like a real job or whatever. But like, this is so what I do is actually so much work. Like it's so time consuming. It's so mental. I do think what I do now is the hardest job that I've ever had because it just consumes so much of your time and day. But at the same time, I get to do what I love, right? I get to talk about music, and I get to share my music. Like it's unbelievable. This is what I get to do. Like literally, this is what I was when I was like in high school. Was just sharing my buddies. Listen to this band. Listen to this underground band. I'm like, I can't believe I'm an audience that listens to me.
Right.
For
And
this
it's
stuff.
taking you to London.
Yeah,
like, it's wild.
It's crazy. Speaking of which, so you're London based, or?
Yes. So people can't place me because my voice is strange, but I am Irish. My parents are Irish. My relatives are Irish. I was born in Japan, and I lived in 7 different countries around the world by the age of 13. So my accent went through Scottish and American in Alaska, and then British in Paris, went to British school there, and then now it's this sort of American Irish thing in the middle, and it makes it kind of unique, which is nice. I guess it helps the channel in the ways, but yeah, people can't place people. I live in London. I have done for several years, which is great because every fucking band in the world plays London. So I have the full buffet of gigs to choose from, which is great. And I'm trying with the podcast to make use of that as well. I mean, like if a band's playing in London, can I get an interview with them at the venue and make that stuff happen? So that's quite fun. But yeah, based in London, it'd be great to catch up when you're in London. But also, you're going to be mad busy, I'm sure, and I've got kids and work and stuff to fit around. But maybe at the end of this, we'll figure out a loose window that we'll try and catch up. That'd be cool.
No, I definitely would love to grab beers because I'm going to be confused when I show up in the UK. Like I arrive Friday. On the Friday, so I'm just going to be exploring and just trying to figure out what to do. Saturday, I think
Saturday is going to be a full day, probably from lunchtime ish, right? Like
yeah, it's going to be a busy day. I'm going to film a bunch of content. I have no idea what's going to happen after the concert. That's all up in the air too. And then Sunday is I guess a relaxing kind of day and also explore.
When do you fly back? How long are you going to be in?
I fly back Monday. Okay,
so that's
evening.
Quick. Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Friday to Monday. It's a whirlwind. I know. It's expensive.
So jet lagged. You've never been jet lagged. Oh my God.
No, man.
Exciting. That'll be part of your content.
I know, exactly. Yeah. It's the whole week is going to be just content about that trip. I'm going to repurpose that content like crazy. One thing I love to share with you too is repurposing content. You'll realize like if you do start live streaming, I have realized that it's best to just sit down one sitting, listen to all these songs, and then your fans will show you these songs, and guess what? You're getting donations. So it's money in your pocket to help you. And then at the same time, you're getting content because then you find a cool song. You're like, oh, I'm just going to take this and make it a YouTube video. And then, Makes sense. Now you went from Twitch then to YouTube. And guess what? If you really want to do the extra mile, then you can take that small clip and put it on TikTok or whatever. And then, or you could even go on Twitter and take a little bite-sized version of what you said in the video and put that on Twitter. And there you are on all social media platforms, but it's all from one single thing. So it's all repurposing the content back over and over.
Makes sense. I see that in my future. I have to figure out how to do that as a process because at the moment, even if it's an extra 30, 40% of time and effort, something else in my life will have to make way for that. And there's nothing to make way. But as my kids get older and want to hang out with me less, maybe there's going to be more of that. Who knows? But I appreciate the advice there. That's very helpful. I totally see the logic of how that could play out.
Yeah, it's just basically like kind of work smarter, not harder, but at the same time it is harder because you're putting more on your plate. So
it's all the balance, right? But equally the risk is as you said, burnout. So that balance is also tricky. All the fun behind the scenes. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I do have a few questions that have come in from viewers that wanted to get asked.
Don't worry about time, man. Literally, it's all good. Yeah, thanks. I can keep talking. I finished my stream like you were saying, so I got the time.
You've been going for it. You've been talking to your camera for like 2+ hours. It's commendable.
Oh, that sounds depressing when you say that. I've been talking to my camera. YouTube can be a very isolating gig. You're right. There's just a camera, but no, it's cool to be able to make like internet friends too, right? It's crazy what you can achieve with
100%. And that, as a brief aside to when you don't have many friends in your close knit group, whatever that is in your locality, that enjoy the same music as you, the internet solves that problem. And actually, there's millions. And it's a wonderful thing. You had one?
Yeah. Hold on. I could talk a bunch, man. You know what's cool though? Talking about your friends not liking the same music, and so for me, I put myself out there because like I wanted to talk about this music, but guess what? Now my friends are finding bands through me, and I'm getting random people from high school. I'm even getting like my brother's friends finding my Instagram and sending me messages and just like, no way, I can't believe you're doing this. By the way, check out this band. And now like a lot of my like old friends or other people are discovering bands through me. Even like my old elementary school buddy, I saw him like a few months ago, and then he started putting on Sleep Token. I'm just like, yeah, Sleep Token's sweet. He's like, yeah, this is really good. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm like, a lot of people fell out of the metal scene. I'm like, yeah, you might have fallen out of it, but it's still alive and kicking well. There's still a lot of cool bands happening right now, and Sleep Token's a prime example.
Here's a question I'd like to ask. This came from user CycleCB. Is your definition of a good song based off how it sounds? And he used the example, does it have a satisfying like blah? Or how it makes you feel, or something else? Or is it a combination of a few factors? What do you think goes into a good song?
Satisfying blah? Is that what he said or she said?
That was an example, yeah. I think I added the word satisfying, but like...
I was going to say, I'm like, if you're thinking about bled, that's not really my channel. That's Orion then.
Yeah, talking about making, trapping yourself with a low bar. Orion better love Blaze for his entire life because he's forever going to be sent Blaze to react to. Like,
I told him, like, what happens if the Blaze not trendy anymore? You're going to have to think of something else. Like, there could be a time where like, people get annoyed with the Blaze, right? Times change. But yeah, what makes a song good? Well, there is no such thing as a good or a bad song. Like, it's literally art. Like, it doesn't even exist. But I guess for my criteria, what I like in music, and it's going to be different for everybody else, but I tend to like music that pushes the band further in a new way, or it's new and developing sounds where the emotions that the band is trying to express actually resonates with the listener too. The amount of times we listen to bands and they're like, oh, this song's really sad, it means a lot to me, and then they play it, I'm like, oh, this does sound like a nice sad song, but it didn't connect. But then there could be something like Euclid where it's a whole trilogy, and now we got to the end, and now the key change and all this, and like now you actually got to reflect what you wanted to show as a band. So what makes a song good, I guess, is when the artist can actually translate what the song sounds like to the listener and what they were trying to achieve with that song. And it's very hard when a band has 5 different members or whoever else, and there are so many cooks in the kitchen, right? So when a band can actually all work together and make a song where the listener listens to exactly what the band was trying to achieve with it, that's what makes a good song. But it's also
good answer. I guess it makes a lot of sense. Dan Skinny, do you ever feel like you have to exaggerate a reaction? Do you ever feel that pull?
Yeah, there is a pull for sure. I can totally see that. Yeah, the thing is, what I've noticed about the Twitch live streams, and I really like doing my videos on Twitch because I really feel like the audience grounds me, because when I'm talking with the chat, I'm like, oh, at least it's like a group of people. So I'm not going to be going like, yeah, or crazy, but like the song, you do want to move because it'd be a boring reaction if you're just going like this the whole time. So I totally get it. And the reason why us reactors might be reacting is like we get in the moment, and to me I feel like it's the same way I listen to music live when I go to a concert. It's the same things that I do. I might like headbang, right? But there are some people that definitely can play it up a little bit, like there and more. And everyone has a little bit of different styles. Like, I think the word that gets coined around is like entertainers, the entertainer reactors, and they definitely play it up. But the people do like those kind of reactions. They like that. They want people to be a little bit over the top. They find enjoyment in that. But if there's someone that's like me who enjoys the more chill reactions, then there's an audience for that too. And so there can be times where you definitely want to play it up, but like at the same time, like if whatever you're feeling, just feel it. I remember listening to the Periphery song Wildfire, and I was just off a high from Sleep Token's new music just being so good, and having this follower that I was just feeling
it's a cool song. Wildfire was amazing.
Yeah, I was just feeling so friggin' good. I'm just like in this moment, and then the jazz section happened, and I'm a big sucker for jazz music. I love jazz music, especially when I hear my prog. So then when I heard that, I'm just like, I just fell off my chair. I fell off my chair. I'm like, are you kidding me?
But it was authentic in the moment. It was what you were feeling because of the context that led up to it, right?
Yeah, I think that's the only time I really got out of my chair too much, because I'm stationary. But there are some reactors that can. It's an interesting question, but I really do my best to stay grounded and not over the top and stay genuine as possible. And I do think the Twitch live streams helps in that regard to keep it just, hey, we're just hanging out, listening to music. No need to put on a show for you.
Because also you couldn't sustain that for like an hour of a stream of like trying to go over exaggerate something. It would you couldn't do that day to day. It would exhaust you. So by nature of having to do the live streams, you will find that inner balance of, listen, if you were on your own in a room just listening to the music, you probably wouldn't react the same way. But the same would be true of if you're listening to a song with a friend next to you on the sofa. You're not just going to stare at the wall. You'd be like, oh shit, that's amazing, right? It's the same thing, that the camera, whatever it is your friend in the room that you're talking to about what you're experiencing. That's kind of how I see that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like you don't really understand until you're in front of the camera and do what we do, but our reactions are still genuine. And of course, I don't listen to music like this by myself. I don't talk. I don't jump up, or I'm not saying I jump up, but I don't know. It is who we are. But yeah, I do. That is a good question, though.
Yeah. I think, relating back to what I said earlier, like the only times I really feel the pull is if I know the band is watching the videos and I'm like, I'm not sure if I like this. I'm like looking for reasons to like it. What can I draw that's positive out of this? That can be tricky.
Oh man. On my last live stream, not today, but on Wednesday, I was streaming for a long time, and I actually had a few bands, they were donating for certain songs, but then the whole band decided to show up because I guess their community said, hey, Metalbirb is not streaming. So then I had a whole band, and they're all eight of them commenting, and they don't realize, but I actually get annoyed by that. I really don't like that because it puts a way too much pressure. It's almost like yeah,
I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, it can happen a couple times, and it's like a little bit like it's like a mob a little bit, and they're all like, oh, is he going to like it? Is he going to like it? And I still think the song is like fine, but it's not necessarily like insane. And I still leave it at that. I always do my best to give criticism. And that happened on Wednesday, and I'm like, okay, your vocals and the band need a lot of work. I'm going to be honest. The vocals need so much work, but the drumming was awesome. Great job on the drumming. Just keep it up. But I do think the vocals need a lot more fine tuning. So I'm going to get a 6.2. And they're just, oh, thank you so much for the feedback. Like,
this is it. What they think they want, and what the fans think they want as well, is that you love it. What they actually want is honesty. That's what everyone's really looking for is truth. And so even though it can be scarier, they will thank you for it. I had bands reach out to me on Instagram, and I've like checked me out and be like my brother said, no, it's not worth it. And I'll go like, listen, I can check this out just my own time. I'll give you some feedback if you want it. Like, please do. And I listen to it. I'm like, this is good. I like this. So it can be like the vocalist, really, if you get a different vocal or like work on that or something, like that's the weak point. And they've been like super grateful. Said, thank you. Really appreciate it. There's been no like, oh, you just don't get it thing,
Yeah, you always got to be honest. And it's tough sometimes. And like, actually, something that was kind of interesting that happened to Drew Fortune was, talking about how he's slightly underwhelmed by the new Silent Planet record.
Yes, that must be so tough for him. He handled it incredibly well, I think.
Oh yeah, the dude's all about class. He's one classy gent right there. But
you've not been in his Discord server though. Just kidding.
I felt for the guy too, because like it, to be honest, it was a little bit disappointed to see that from Garrett Russell's end. Like I understand you go to YouTube and that's one of the first things that you see, but at the same time, I really do think we need to stay honest. We need to keep making sure that we don't play it up for the camera, pull in the views, and just make the fan bases happy. We really are trying to be honest, and whether or not you agree or disagree with our opinions is totally up to you. But what we're just trying to do is share our opinions and help. What long-term goal of all this is just improving and helping out the scene and make it grow. So I really liked what Drew did, and I hope that he continues to. And if he doesn't like a song, feel free to say it in the title, like, like, this was not very good, but here you go. And people can get mad about the title of the video or whatever, but it's true. He's still being authentic to how he felt.
Yeah.
It's
if
not
you watch
clickbait.
the video, he liked the album. It's just like the singles before were so strong that the album couldn't match the high for him. And that he still gave it some like super high score and the rest. But I think when it comes to criticism, as long as it's fair, then it's like, that is the whole point. If you are actively trying to shit on a band or a song, just saying, you know what, I just don't like it, that's not helpful. Then what is the point of that? But if you can be fair about it and explain, these are my reasons why, and that reason could be just subjectively, I don't really connect with this kind of music, whatever it is. Like, if you're fair about it and honest, I say this, I already hear the response, like, people can't be mad at that. People will be mad at that. People always find a way to be mad at something. But that's kind of my take on it. And I don't know if I really want to talk about this particular band and topic, but between us girls, Architects have struggled. I probably will edit this out of the podcast episode. They've had a lot of shit from a lot of fans, mostly horrific shit from like people saying awful things about their deceased brother and band member and not enjoying their new music, which I think is unfair criticism. That's unrelated. Mm-hmm. But they've also not enjoyed the fair criticism of people online sharing their thoughts and reviews of the album. And they've mentioned that in an interview. And they seem to have kind of muddied those two things together. And their recent song that came out felt targeted not just at the arseholes who were like saying shitty things about the, death threats, whatever it is. It was also just anyone that's really criticizing their change of music and they're not being as heavy in the rest. And I don't think that's a healthy way of responding to that. And they even fair critique on that, I think they've struggled to take on board.
Yep, I 110% agree with what you said. It's funny because I still enjoy the song. It's not my favorite
the
from
song.
the band. It
wasn't incredible, but it was good. It was like metalcore by numbers, but it was done very well.
Yep, it's funny because like I did have more criticisms about the song, but I actually edited it out because like I'm like I don't really feel
Same.
like. Yeah, I did. I actually did.
Because knowing they will watch it, I'm like I know they won't be able to hear that in a balanced way, and I don't want to rile them, even though I think I'm being fair here. It's not actually necessary for my critique to include it.
It is a very interesting topic, actually. I think you should leave this in the podcast too, because I agree with what you're saying. It's because criticism is important. It totally is important, and so it is. Architects is like top 5 favorite bands for me. I love the band and I respect the band. They're one of my
favorites for sure.
But after Holy Hell, I've slowly lost interest in their music. But hey, keep writing the music that they want to write. But I'm still going to be able to just say like, yeah, this is all right, but it's not really sparking too much for me. And it's funny because I do feel like they miss the memo of their music a little bit for me. Because it's like, oh, we need to be heavy again. We need to start doing blaz again. I'm like, is that what really? So I know that's what. So that was my criticism. I'm like, that's
or that we need to be
really
angry. It's like I don't need you to. I'm sure some people said, "Well, you liked you more when you're angry," because some people are going to be dicks about it. But like, I don't need. I listen to some seriously pop stuff. Like I don't need everything to be heavy. I love Nickelback. Fuck me for not going for the heavy stuff. But yeah, I need the songs to be interesting. And their recent album felt watered down, not just simplified for effect. Like Jimmy Eat World write incredibly simple songs, but they connect, they hit. The simplicity that they went for felt watered down somehow. It didn't have any amount of fire. And I don't mean anger, I mean something, human urgency within it, which is tricky. I think the reason I struggled in that song was did you see their interview on Downbeat podcast?
Yep.
Here's a fun little thing. So during that, I can't believe I'm talking about this because this feels mad, but they at some point they were talking about why we shouldn't care about what random people on the internet think of our music, right? And I would agree with that. And they said, what do you shouldn't take advice from, you shouldn't listen to the critique of someone whose advice you wouldn't ask for. And they say, like, for example, I'm not going to listen to Steven who lives in his mum's basement and eats pot noodle and doesn't like her music. I'm not going to ask him for advice in a song. I'm sure he's a very good musician, but like, what do I care what he thinks? And I'm sitting there listening to this going, so I'm the only person who's reacted to their album who his name is a form of Steven and who identifies as a musician reacting to the album. Like, there's no way they didn't see my reaction and were slightly underwhelmed by my take on it. I think it was a fair take. I did not shit on it, but I said essentially what I've said here. Like, I didn't connect with it. I didn't think it was as interesting. It's sort of, I think I'll play this album a bunch, maybe in the background, like it's kind of background music. And I suspect they did not enjoy that as a take, even though I love the band and I wasn't just looking for heaviness. Like, I loved a couple of the singles off that record. But since then, I now have a strange relationship with that band. We've never met, we've never talked, but I'm now like, I really want to check out the new music and I want to like it. But when that same song came out, being like, you only like when you're seeing red, I felt like, is this at me as well? What's happening here? It felt weird.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. I do agree that it's not a healthy way of doing it, because I almost feel like there's a big disconnect between the fans and the band too. So it's a whole interesting topic, because like for me, my criticism about the music and what I edited out for my reaction was like, my problem with this song is obviously, there's, them kind of deliberately kind of trolling the fans a little bit, but it's not necessarily that it's heavy is what I've been missing, but it's like the more emotions that they were really wearing on their sleeves. And then they still are a band that's very creative, but I felt like their music, whether it was very aggressive from their old stuff or very emotional, like All Our Gods Abandoned Us, it was a band that just really wore their emotions on their sleeve, and they still are, hence why they're iffy about the criticism, right? But there was something that just made my hair raise off my like forearms. Like it was spine tingling. It was like very emotive music, which is lacking in replace of effects and hooks. That's what the new music is all about. It's all about how many effects can we throw in, how hooky can we be. And because of it, it's lost what made me fall in love with the band was how emotional they were, whether it was like really heavy or if they did a slow sappy ballad, which is some of my favorite music that they've done. It was still emotional and I still could connect, but I'm have a hard time connecting with the band, what they're trying to do, which was I was saying earlier about what makes the song good. I'm not hearing what they want to do. They're trying to be creative and hooky, but it's not working for me. It's not doing it. And now they're being heavy. It's fun. I like how heavy it is, but I'm not going to go back to it too much.
Yeah, and I also don't buy. I get my video title for that is this bait? I don't think that. I don't know if they're going to do an album off of this, but I don't think that's the direction they're going to head in, unless it just the sales for tickets and albums goes down so south. They're like, fuck it, we have to go back and revisit.
Yeah, but, see exactly how be creating art or like sustain as a career. There's that fine balance that these bands have to manage. And like, I also do want to mention, like, the last thing I want this band to do is quit, right? Yeah. I would hate for them to quit and throw in the towel, but like right now your music is not working for me, but you're still like my top 5 favorite band. Like you're still in that
every
list.
Time they release a song, I go in it going like, I hope I like this. I really want to like this, and I'm not looking for reasons not to. I'm looking for reasons to dig it. And I think of, as a comparison, Bring Me the Horizon, who went off and did Ammo, which I did not really connect with for the most part. Like I did other music by them, but they never. Well, they had a sort of jokey, similar song of like, "Oh, are you happy now? We're going to do some heavy stuff." They teased us with that, like afterwards. But they eventually came back and did heavy stuff. I just kind of waited and decided, you know what? The old albums still exist. All the Architects' old stuff exists. You can still just go listen to that. You don't have to engage with the new stuff, and they might come back around in future. But they equally don't have to. Like as like it's their prerogative. They can do what they want. Thank you for the gifts of the songs you've given us so far. I've loved them, and do whatever makes you happy. I just don't know if what they're doing now is really making them happy. It's kind of doesn't feel healthy somehow.
Yep, I totally agree. You can tell by just their passive aggressiveness on Twitter too. Some of their tweets are a little bit passive aggressive, and it doesn't seem like a healthy way to be. Even there was comments about him wearing like mascara or painting his nails, and a lot of mean comments about Sam in that regard. But now you watch the new music video and he's totally got rid of all that stuff. He's looking less like a rock star David Bowie guy and more just the metalcore guy. So
but like,
it's very interesting.
People were shitty about him having the guy liner and changing his clothes, whatever, which I disagree with as a concept. Like, don't be shitty about that. He can wear whatever the fuck he likes.
Exactly.
But their reaction being like, people don't like what I'm doing because I'm wearing makeup. It's like, we listen to metal. People in metal have been wearing makeup for fucking ever. Like, that's not a thing. People are like painting their faces white, putting black, like scars and shit. Like, that's not a problem in metal. I don't, they seem to be looking at things that aren't actually at the core of like, they're that spine tingly, emotive something, whether that's honed in a poppy rock song or something heavy. Find that thing, and that's why we connected in the first place.
Yep, totally agree. I think this is a good. I think included.
I'm too scared.
I think that's some of the best content is when you're really scared to do it. There's been a couple of videos of mine where I'm like, should I publish this? And I just do it, and then I'm like, it is what it is. It's out there, and then let them behold. I'm happy with the outcome. I think it's. The thing is, we were talking about criticisms and it's all about respect. Like you're still doing it in a respectful manner. You're just being genuine and honest with who you are as a person. You're still keeping your integrity. But for people who just say, "Oh, this is shitty," or "This it's stupid that he's wearing like painting his nails," that's different, right? You're being 100%. Yeah, you're being rude. Maybe it's because you're from the UK and I'm from Canada, but we have some manners, so we respectfully can critique stuff. Like that's how we are, I think. So I think that it's good to be like that, but we're respectful. Once we say, "Oh, this is shit," then that's stupid. Like without any.
And this is ultimately, and going back to the beginning, this is why I created the channel. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want the conversation. I want the discourse. I want the discussion. On these things, because I think there's nuance in all of this. It's not as black and white as people might think. We're losing some of the nuance in the modern world, and the more of that we can have, I think the better we'll understand each other, probably.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree.
Well, sir. Well, the problem is now, like, if I were to clip that out, you'd be like, but I know. We had a whole chat about architects and you clipped it out like a wuss. So
no. You can do whatever you're comfortable with, but I do think that's an interesting point. I do think a lot of people will resonate with that and actually understand too, and might actually feel the same way.
Potentially. What surprised me was my reaction to the most recent song. I had a very considered response towards the end of it. I try to outline some of these thoughts, and I expected the like to dislike ratio on my video to be wild, but it was like 98% like, which really surprised me. I thought some big Architects fans would come in and be like, "No, you're wrong," or people who just hate the new sound would be like, "No, you're wrong," even though like I didn't write the song. That could also happen. But I think people, again, and why I think people come to our channels and enjoy it is they want the truth. Ultimately, that is the thing that is of value. Even if they don't think that's what they want, that is what they'll resonate with.
That's what they want across the board from everything online. That's a big reason why I started my channel, is that I think there's a lot of good reactions, but none of them were being totally truthful. But I think that's what people are striving for online. I think people can tell when something's BS. And like, it's funny, you watch like this kind of random, but like if you go on Instagram or TikTok or something, and there's like something like something happening and it looks a little bit weird, you can go to the comments and like, "Oh, this is fake," right? People are ready to like call out fakeness when they see it. So that's what I mean, that people want to see realness online because it's hard to find.
100%. It's, as you said, we've discussed, it's scary actually to be authentically yourself, because everyone worries that, well, if I'm really myself, no one will like me. But that's where the magic is, which is the most ridiculous cliche thing I could possibly say, but that's how it is.
I know it sounds cliche, but I've noticed one thing being a content creator is that the more real and who you are as a person, the more that people will like you, because it's I realized this with the Twitch live streams and like saying stupid things, or like maybe my English sounds really improper at times. And I might be like, if this was a regular YouTube video, I would take that out. I'm like, oh, this sounds dumb. But I'm like, oh, it's part of the video. It's hard to edit out. But then people like it. And then I think
Right.
look at someone like Nick Nocturnal, right? And he was just so goofy, and if you watch his old videos, he wasn't like that, right? He started becoming more and more himself, which was like over the top, and people like it because people want to see people for who they really are. And it's really hard to be like that online. It takes time. People who are like that right away, I'm like, okay, this seems a little weird. You have to gradually continue to reveal yourself a little bit more. But people are a good judgment of character. They can see through your facial expressions and what you say. It's like, oh yeah,
100%. I really enjoy what Drew Fortune does now and then. We're like, if he makes a mistake during his intro or whatever, he keeps it in and makes it funny with an edit. I'm like, that's incredible. I'd never think to do that. But it's the kind of thing that you'd normally be like, no, I'll edit that out and I'll redo it. But it includes that. And those are some of my best favorite bits. I just laugh out loud. And then it makes you think, I'll check out whatever video he puts out because there'll be something about it I'll enjoy of his personality and the rest. I guess that's probably the crux of the whole thing.
Oh, Drew's been killing it. I've been really loving his new videos. The way that he is, he's again, that's someone I feel like has gained more himself lately on front of the camera.
Yeah, totally. No, he's great. Yeah. All right, let's wrap up with a final question here. And we talked about Wix a song good. You've got a rating system I'd love to know a bit more about. It's a 1 to 10, but there's decimal points in it. What is an 8.1 versus an 8.2? How do you measure that, man?
Oh my god, what a crazy system. Like, it's like everyone uses the system. It's like I don't know.
Drew does the same. But I'd love to know. Like, when did you first go, I'm going to put a number on this thing, and how do you feel about your system?
Okay, well, the reason why I started including numbers, so for the longest time, I did not have numbers in my reviews. And the reason is my numbers always change, right? After some time, a song grows on me, the song gets worse. So that's the reason why I didn't do numbers. But this year, I made so many changes to my channel and how my editing. And so we were talking about people don't stick around for the reviews. I'm like, okay, how can I make people stick around for the reviews? Okay, wait for the final number at the end. So that's the reason why I started introducing my rating system. And the rating system is because there's a big difference between an 8 and 7 and 6. So I have to use decimal points. And to me, I always sum it up and joke about it, but like an 8 or higher, it means it's going to be on my Spotify playlist. If it's below, it probably doesn't have the replayability for me. But a difference between 8.1 8.2, it's so subjective. It could change after, there's times where like I say, oh, like this song is really good, it's 8.7, and then after some time I'm like, wait, this song is amazing, this is my favorite song of the month, and it should have been a 9, right? So that's why I always put that little disclaimer: ratings are subject to change. Yeah, because like
I first heard antimatter, I was like, this is great, I really like this. No, I don't think I've completely grasped this song. The more I listen to it, the more I'm like, antimatter is genius. It's a work of genius.
Antimatter is such a good song. It really is. But yeah, I don't know. The difference between 8.1 and 8.2 is a little bit hard to describe sometimes. But I do want to say, you were talking about how you're mostly a positive person. I am too. So I find it actually really hard to rate something less than 5 because I see the merit in all music. I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. It's not really my style, but I can still see how this is maybe like a 6 or something. That's how I'm going to rate it. So, and that's actually one thing I've noticed. People have called me out for being way too critical, and it's funny because like I've seen a Reddit comment saying, "Oh, he just likes everything." I'm just like, really? Oh my god! So now I'm way too critical, or now I just like everything. But I think the reason why people think I like everything is because now, since I've introduced the rating system this year, they realize I actually don't hate music. I always rate usually things above a 5. It's very hard for me to rate something below a 5. And when I do, I don't really want to put that video out because I don't want to shit on the band. And speaking of all this honesty kind of stuff, it depends. It really depends. Yes. Like if it's
you could be more honest in a fair way with a band that's massive and successful, and they're going to be fine. But if it's a new or small up and coming band, you don't want to hurt them. Like you want to be like, keep going, you're doing fine. I'm not going to introduce any negativity publicly. Like keep working on your stuff.
Yep. I'm not, yeah, exactly. And they come on the Twitch live streams, I'll still explain my criticisms to them.
Of course, that's
right.
different.
Like the vocals need a lot more work, but like I won't make a video about it. I'm not going to put this in video just like, oh my god, this song, the vocals are bad, but check out the drums on this track or something. Like that's just it's not fair to the band. But if Parkway Drive drops a new song and I don't like it, I'm still going to put it out there. But this is an interesting point too, since we work with labels now. It's like you don't want to hurt the relationship with the label. So I still haven't gotten any issues with labels. They still like me, but I like, I don't know. What if there becomes a point where I'm just like, oh, this song's not good. Here's a 3 out of 10. By the way, can you remove the copyright on this, please?
Yeah, about the AdSense though. I have no relationship with any labels. I clearly need to figure that one out, but that's some interest.
Hey, if we meet up in London, I'll let you know all the hookups.
Either way, even without that, very much looking forward to hopefully catching up with you in London. Thank you again for being very generous with your time after doing a stream today. I really appreciate it. I could talk for fucking ages, but my wife is like, are you coming in? It's 10:20 here in London. So I'm going to go spend some time with her. Well, thank you, sir. Been a great chat.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation with Metalbirb. Really thoughtful bits and pieces in there. And if you'd like to continue that conversation with me, you can join my Discord server. There's a link in the description. It's totally free, and we can chat about this. We can chat about the podcast in general or music. All fair game. If you'd like to check out more from Metalbirb, do have a look at his YouTube channel. You can just search Metalbirb, but also I'll put a link in the description for that as well. So thank you for listening to this conversation. Hopefully you'll enjoy a future episode of this podcast.